G'day folks, Scott here. Today I'm reviewing Tomb Raider. This movie stars Alicia Vikander and is another video game to movie translation for the Tomb Raider franchise. They'd done 2 movies previously starring Angelina Jolie, and then in 2013 the video game series had a reboot with a really good game, went in a new direction heavily inspired by the Uncharted series. And now this movie is based on that 2013 video game reboot. It's essentially the same story. They just sort of fluffed out a bunch of exposition and I guess left out a lot of the really sort of dark and more violent elements to that. So there's good and bad. I guess the good first. She did a much better job than Angelina Jolie. This girl is very easy on the eyes. She was very athletic. She definitely did a good job in the role, or as good a job as the screenplay permitted her to do. There were a lot of set-piece type action moments lifted directly from the game. So in the first, 2/3 of the movie, a lot of those moments happened that happened previously in the game. And then things got a little wacky and changed, and it became a sort of very on-set, studio-based kind of set-piece finale where it kind of fell apart for me at the end. One thing I found weird is I'd like to talk to people or hear from people who haven't played that video game to see how they felt about the story. For me, having played the game, and that game begins with a shipwreck and Lara landing on the island, and then flashbacks that reveal the story of how she got there as the story moved on. I really liked that. This had about 15 minutes, it felt like, maybe 20 minutes of lead up to that moment with her in London that honestly I found unnecessary. I didn't find it particularly interesting. I really felt that those moments only existed for those people who still don't know Tomb Raider as a franchise and needed to have it explained to them that this is a girl who's somewhat proficient in combat and very fit and agile and has good cardio, so that when she does all the wacky action shit later in the movie, it made sense that she could do that to a degree. Now, just like the 2013 game being a reboot, that took Lara back to her first adventure, and this does the same thing. Without going too far into the story, that basically she was estranged from the Croft name and was living under her own devices and was a courier, delivery bike rider, and studied MMA at a gym, and barely made ends meet financially. And it turns out that her father, just like in the game, had gone off to find this island in the Devil's Sea and looking for this Hitomi, I can't remember the name, some Japanese sorceress who was buried on this, Hikomi I think it was, who was buried on this island. And she, having been estranged from the family for that amount of time because he was missing and had been gone 7 years and such, hadn't touched the fortune or anything and was being pressured by the lawyers and stuff like, look, you need to sort this out, he needs to be declared dead, you need to take hold of the family's, fortune and business and all that kind of stuff. So, basically she finally agrees to go and do this, and that leads for me to one of the biggest bullshit moments in the movie, and I know it's only something small, but it really set me off on the wrong foot with this. Is she goes there and her father's left her like this little Japanese puzzle box, and she solves it, and there's a key inside it with a note, and she goes back to Croft Manor, and the note reveals that there's like a hidden door behind the wall in the mausoleum where her mother and father and the rest of the Croft family are buried, and there's like a secret lair kind of thing there where her father had all his like archaeological projects and all this stuff that he'd been working on over the years and all. And she goes down there, and that's of course what inspires her to go on this adventure and shows her, what he was trying to do, and that there's an evil corporation that were trying to stop him from doing it, and so on and so forth, and the story moves on. What shits me is it's clearly established to you that she has not set foot in this place for 7 years, that her father has been missing for 7 or more years. In this thing on the desk, it's mildly dusty, is a box with a camcorder, like an old VHS camcorder sitting on top of that with the words "Play Me" written on there. Of course, her father had left all these clues for her to find this place, knowing only she would find it and no one else was going to go down there. She picks up this camcorder and presses play. Now, this thing's held a charge for 7 years. I'm sorry, but batteries just aren't that good. If I let this camera go for a month without charging it, it wouldn't fucking work, let alone after 7 years with a VHS camcorder. After that, she picks up a dictaphone, like a little, tape recorder from the desk, Presses play on that. AA batteries apparently last 7 years as well. Boom, starts playing. Bullshit. That was probably the biggest thing that really shit me in the movie. And it went on from there. And once she got on the boat and sort of got to the island, it, for the most part, followed the story of that video game. Where it went wrong, I think, is that unlike the game where she had established relationships with other people who were on that boat, who then got split up around the island and she rescued them and had a lot of gunfights and combat and learned to use the bow and arrow and all that kind of stuff, none of that was it. It was just her and one other guy on the boat. They get captured, obviously, because they spent so much time introducing this story before she got on the boat. They had to trim time from the actual story once she got to the island where the crux of the story should have taken place. My biggest issue, I guess, is the bad guy's shit. I say repeatedly that stories and movies and interesting action are made by their bad guy. A story is only as good as its bad guy. This guy's entire motivation was that he'd been sent to this island to get into this tomb and retrieve what was in there. He couldn't do it, so he sat there with his mercenaries on the island trying to find the tomb for 7 long years. His entire motivation was that so he could get on the satellite phone and go, I found it, can I come home now? And that was it. That's a shit motivation for a bad guy, and it really put me off on the wrong foot for the rest of the movie. So there were some okay action scenes. The girl did a very good job as Lara Croft. The movie leaves itself completely open-ended and sets itself up for more sequels, and to be honest, if someone else writes it and directs it, I'd probably quite happily go and watch it because I liked where it could have gone. I just think it could have gone a little further. And I think it could have treated its core audience, who are, let's face it, really people who are into the video game franchise are going to go see this. You didn't need to give us all that exposition bullshit at the beginning of the movie to try and explain why she got to the point where the movie really should have begun. So that's really all I've got, you know. If you're a diehard fan of the franchise, then go see it. If you love that game, the 2013 game, then go see it, you know. Like, I'd really, like I said, like to hear from people who don't know anything about the game, who watch this movie and see what they thought of it. Maybe the lead-in actually helped them enjoy the story, I don't know. But there were a lot of those really clearly on-set physical practical effect kind of, you know, tipping stage kind of scenes that just didn't really work for me. But there were some cool action moments, and I've seen worse. And especially when it comes to video game to movie translations, of which most of them are absolutely fucking awful. Bar Silent Hill, which I thought was pretty good, the first one of them, it's not that bad if you're putting it in that body of work. But that goes back to like me comparing the Hellraiser sequels. You know, just because this piece of shit doesn't smell any worse than this piece of shit doesn't mean they're both something you should be smelling. So, I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. If you're into it, go see it. If you're not, I'll be back next week to review Pacific Rim. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.